I wasn't looking for anything that night. That's the part one keeps circling back to. It wasn't a fight, or a discovery mission, or even one of those gut punch hunches that you can't shake. It was just me, sitting in a quiet room on a Tuesday night, scrolling through my phone like I had 100 times before. We'd had leftover pasta for dinner. Ellie had eaten in front of the TV, half watching something on Netflix, half checking her work emails. I barely touched my plate. We didn't talk much, not out of anger, just out of something else. Distance. A kind of practiced silence that had slowly become our default setting. After dinner, she went upstairs to take a bath, and I stayed downstairs in the dark, scrolling like a zombie. That's when I opened Instagram. I hadn't used it in weeks. I think I was avoiding it. All the curated lives and smiling faces made me feel like a shadow version of myself. Someone who used to belong to that world but didn't anymore. Still, there I was, scrolling. Habit more than interest. And then I saw it. Not a post, but a story. One of her coworkers had tagged her in a short boomerang video from a restaurant. I tapped it out of pure reflex. And there she was, Ellie, wearing a red dress I didn't recognize, low cut, hugging her figure like it was tailored for her body and no one else's. Her hair was curled, just how she knows I love it, and her lipstick matched the dress. Her hand was wrapped around a stemmed wine glass, her smile wide and effortless as she tilted her head back in laughter. She looked stunning. She looked alive. But that's not what stopped me. What stopped me, what punched a hole straight through my chest, was the window behind her. The reflection. It wasn't clear, not at first. But once you saw it, you couldn't unsee it. There was an arm. A man's arm, tan and muscular, reaching around her waist. He wore a stainless steel watch with a navy face. His hand was resting on her hip in a way that wasn't casual. Not friendly, not professional, not even flirtatious. It was mate. It was familiar, the kind of touch you reserve for someone who belongs to you, at least in that moment. The boomerang looped again and again and again. Each time, my brain worked to rationalize it, explain it away, twist it into something innocent. Maybe it was just a hug hello. Maybe the reflection was warped. Maybe I was seeing things. But I wasn't. And I knew it. I took a *T. Not because I needed proof. I didn't even know what I'd do with it. I think I just needed to freeze it, to capture the exact moment everything shifted. A piece of evidence for the trial that had suddenly opened in my mind. She had told me earlier that day it was a work dinner. Some senior partner from out of town. One of those mandatory schmooze nights, she'd said. You know how it is. I had nodded, half listening, thinking maybe I'd order Chinese and binge a show she didn't like. I didn't ask many questions. I didn't want to seem insecure, or controlling, or whatever word people use now to explain away gut feelings. I looked back at the photo again. The restaurant was familiar. Too familiar. It was the place we went for our 3rd anniversary. The night I gave her the little silver necklace she used to wear to bed. The one that had disappeared from her drawer 3 months ago. She chose that place. That booth. That night. I sat there for a long time, staring at the screen. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I didn't even move. My whole body felt like static, like every cell in me had gone offline, waiting for instructions. When she came back downstairs an hour later, her hair damp, robe tied loose, she leaned over the back of the couch and kissed my cheek. Hey, she said. What are you watching? Just flipping channels. She stood there a moment longer, then wandered into the kitchen. I heard the fridge open, then close. I heard her pour herself a glass of something, maybe the same wine from the restaurant. I heard her feet shuffle against the hardwood floor as she came back in and sat on the other side of the couch, tucking her legs under herself like nothing had changed. I looked over at her. She looked peaceful, relaxed. How was dinner? I asked. She smiled. Ugh. Exhausting. You know how these things go. Half the team just wanted to impress the guy, the other half were too drunk to function. Where'd you end up going? That Italian place. You know, the one with the weird squid ink pasta. I nodded. The one we went to for our anniversary? She paused for just a beat. Yeah, thought it might impress him. He's one of those types who reads restaurant blogs and gets all snobby about ambience. I didn't say anything. I just looked at her. What? She asked, tilting her head like she was annoyed but trying to play it off. I turned the phone screen toward her, showing her the photo. The screensh *T. The reflection. This doesn't look like a business dinner, I said. She squinted at it, then laughed. A sharp, nervous sound. Oh my God, that's Alex from marketing, she said, waving her hand like it was obvious. He's always touchy. It's annoying, honestly, but harmless. Harmless, I repeated. Babe. She leaned toward me, setting her wine on the table. Are we really doing this? Getting jealous over reflections now? There was a flicker of something in her eyes. Not guilt, not fear, just control, like she'd rehearsed it. I nodded slowly and turned my eyes back to the TV. You're right, I said. That's on me. She smiled again. Tight, small, and picked up her glass. She didn't say anything else. That night, I waited until she fell asleep. Her robe hung over the side of the bed, her breathing even. I sat on the edge of the mattress for a while, watching the moonlight stretch across the floorboards. Then I got up, walked into the office, turned on my laptop. I opened a flight search and typed in anywhere. Just that. Anywhere. One way. No return. It wasn't dramatic. I wasn't fantasizing about disappearing or starting a new life in the Alps. I just wanted to go somewhere she didn't exist. A place where her scent wasn't soaked into the sheets. A place where I didn't have to wonder what reflection might be hiding in the background of her stories. I booked the ticket before I could talk myself out of it. Didn't even check the weather. Just clicked confirm. She stirred a little when I slid back into bed. Reached for me in her sleep, fingers brushing my shoulder. And for the first time in years, I didn't reach back. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even try. I just lay there in the dark, the glow of my phone screen dimming in my hand as flight confirmation emails rolled in, unread. Ellie curled beside me, her back turned, breathing slow and steady like nothing had changed, like I wasn't quietly planning my escape, 6 inches away. It's funny what your brain does in moments like that, how fast it goes into rewind. Every little moment you brushed off, every comment you excused, suddenly takes on new meaning. The things you convinced yourself were normal start to rot under the light of hindsight. It wasn't one thing. That's what makes it worse. It was all of it, all at once. A slow burn I kept waving away until the whole house was smoke. I remember when she joined that new gym. That was 6 months ago. She said she wanted a change, a place with better equipment and a sauna. I didn't question it. I was proud of her for prioritizing herself. But the place was 40 minutes away, one way. She'd come home sweaty, flushed, eyes lit up in this way I hadn't seen in years. Great session, she'd say, throwing her bag on the floor. I feel amazing. But the workouts got longer. 2 hours. Then 3. Then sometimes, she'd text saying she was grabbing a smoothie with some of the girls she met there. I never met those girls. Didn't even hear their names. Just the girls. I asked once if I could come by with her sometime, try a class maybe, and she smiled like I was a toddler asking to sit in on a board meeting. This is kind of my thing, she said. You'd hate it. It's all loud music and leg day. So I let it go. I let a lot of things go. The new lingerie. That was another one. Not a ton, just a few pieces that showed up quietly. Nothing she ever wore for me. Once, I found a receipt folded into the trash from a boutique I didn't recognize. Lace wasn't new, but Ellie had always said comfort came first. These didn't scream comfort. They screamed performance. Theater. Then there were the late-night balcony calls. That was a recent addition. She started pacing the balcony after dinner, earbuds in, voice low. She'd tell me it was work, always work, some time zone mismatch or a product launch with the West Coast team. She stopped saying, I'll be quick. Eventually, she stopped saying anything at all. She'd just drift out there like a ghost, phone in hand, shutting the sliding door behind her. I'd see her silhouette from the kitchen sometimes, one arm crossed over her stomach, the other gesturing softly, like she was narrating a secret only the night could hear. When I asked who it was, she'd smile with her mouth, not her eyes. Nobody, just work stuff. Boring. Work stuff became the catch-all, the universal excuse, like a drawer she could toss anything into, then slam it shut and dare me to open it. And I didn't. I never opened it. Her phone stopped lighting up around me, too. Always on silent. Always face down. The lock screen changed, new passcode. I remember asking, half joking, "Did we switch to CIA-level security now?" She laughed. "Had to," she said. "You never know these days. My phone's like my whole life. One breach and I'm toast." It sounded reasonable at the time. So did skipping dinner. That started gradually. She'd cook a little less. I'd come home to find her already eating, or just finishing. Or sometimes she'd say she wasn't hungry at all. "Had a late lunch," she'd explain. Or, "Had a protein bar before the gym." But later, when I'd head into the kitchen to grab water or a snack, I'd catch her in the fridge. Quiet, calculated, eating cold pasta straight from the container. I'd raise an eyebrow. She'd shrug. Didn't realize how hungry I was. I told myself it was nothing. Everyone snacks. Everyone's weird about meals sometimes. But it kept happening. She stopped making eye contact during conversations, too. Not all the time. Just when the topics turned personal. If I asked about her day, she'd breeze through it in 2 sentences. If I asked how she was feeling, she'd blink like the question didn't register. "Fine," she'd say too quickly. "Everything's good." I started keeping track without meaning to. The missed touches. The way she pulled her hand away when I reached for it in bed. The side hugs. The polite, distant pecks goodbye. I don't know when exactly she stopped leaning her head on my shoulder during movies. But one night I looked down and realized she wasn't even sitting next to me anymore. She was curled into the opposite corner of the couch, like a guest. There was that one weekend in February, too. She said she had a company retreat, just 2 nights, some team-building thing in Chicago. She was excited about it in a way that felt forced, like someone trying to sell a vacation they didn't want to go on. "Won't be anything fancy," she said, tossing workout clothes into her duffel. Lots of panels and awkward icebreakers. But when she came back, her skin was tanner than usual. Not by a lot, but noticeable. And her suitcase was too clean. Nothing wrinkled. Nothing looked touched. I asked how it went. "Exhausting," she said. Speakers wouldn't shut up. She didn't bring back the usual hotel swag either. No branded pens, no water bottles. No little soaps. I didn't think about it then. But I think about it now. I remember the night I sat on our bed and noticed she'd switched perfumes. A sharper scent. More citrus. She used to wear something softer, lavender and vanilla. She never mentioned the switch. Just started using it. When I commented on it, she laughed and said, "The old one ran out. Thought I'd try something more grown up." Grown up. What a strange thing to say after 7 years of marriage. Even the way she laughed changed. It became higher. Flirtier. The kind of laugh I hadn't heard in years. Definitely not from across our dinner table. I used to know all her tells. The little signs. The way she played with her earring when she was nervous. The way she blinked faster when she was lying. But somewhere along the way I lost the thread. Or maybe she just got better at hiding. And me? I got better at pretending. I told myself these were normal things. Busy schedules. Grown-up drift. I convinced myself that marriage was just a series of plateaus, moments of dullness between peaks. I repeated phrases I'd read online. Relationships take work. People evolve. Don't take it personally. But what I really meant was, don't look too closely. Because if I had really looked, I think I would have seen the cracks way sooner. Maybe not the whole affair, but the distance, the decay, the quiet subtraction of presence. Day by day. They say hindsight is 20/20ths, but that's not true. Hindsight is cruel. It doesn't just show you what you missed, it makes you feel stupid for missing it. And in that hotel room, 1,000 miles away from the red dress, the candlelight, the hand on her waist, I saw everything with perfect clarity. I didn't just lose her that night. I'd been losing her for months, and I had done absolutely nothing to stop it. I left before sunrise. No note. No noise. Just my bag, my keys, and that strange clarity that comes with hitting your breaking point so silently it almost feels polite. The airport was mostly empty, bathed in that soft gray light that makes everything feel dreamlike. I didn't book the earliest flight or the cheapest. I picked the first one to anywhere that felt small and unimportant. I didn't care where I landed. I just wanted distance. I wanted to be somewhere Ellie didn't know the street names or the weather or the scent of the air. A few hours later, I stepped off a plane into a sleepy village nestled against the edges of British Columbia. It wasn't a destination, not really. It was a pause button. Mountains, pine trees, a lake the color of old glass. The air smelled like wood smoke and wet moss. My rented room was above a bookstore, one of those cozy spots that smelled like paper and chai and solitude. I didn't talk to anyone. I didn't explain myself. I didn't even check in with work. I just stopped. Everything. It was like slamming the brakes on a runaway car. The silence hurt, but at least it was honest. The first few days were a blur. I wandered, drank coffee, walked trails that wound through trees so tall they made me feel microscopic. I sat on park benches and tried to read, but every page reminded me of Ellie somehow, of how she used to dog-ear her favorite quotes or read dialogue out loud with different voices. She made books feel alive. She made everything feel alive, which made what happened next feel even more like a death. It started with a cloud sync notification on my phone. We still shared storage. I'd forgotten that. Some automatic setup from years ago that backed up photos and files to the same drive. We used to love it, sharing pictures from trips or random moments. But after everything, I had stopped checking it entirely. Until that morning. I opened the app on impulse. Maybe I was punishing myself. Or maybe some small, wounded part of me wanted to see proof that I had imagined it all. That maybe, somehow, the reflection was a trick of the light. That's when I saw the folder. Paris, 2024. I froze. We had never been to Paris. We had talked about it, sure. Romantic daydreams over wine and pasta. Someday, she'd say, tracing circles on the table. Someday when things settle down. But we never went. Never planned anything. So why was there a folder? I opened it. And there she was. Ellie. On a cobblestone street, coffee in one hand, the Eiffel Tower blurred behind her. Smiling. Not for the camera, for someone taking the picture. Someone she clearly wanted to see her that way. Next photo. Her in a red beret, sitting at a tiny table outside a cafe, mid-laugh. A man's hand holding hers from across the table, half cropped out. My chest tightened. Next. Inside a hotel room. Her in an oversized shirt, legs curled up on a window bench, sunlight pouring over her skin. The same man. This time more visible, barefoot, holding a camera, his face hidden by a reflection in the mirror. You could tell they were alone. Mate. Comfortable. Next. Her on a balcony in a robe, hair wet, glass of orange juice in hand. Behind her, in the reflection of the sliding door, a bare leg, his on the bed. A breakfast tray nearby. Her smile was soft, natural. The kind of smile that lives in real life, not posed photos. The timestamps matched the weekend she claimed to be in Chicago for a leadership conference. Chicago. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I kept flipping through them, each one louder than the last. Museum selfies. Dinner plates with 2 forks. A boat ride. Even a blurry *T from a bridge where she kissed his cheek. They weren't hiding. Not from each other. Only from me. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This was planned. Lived. Documented. She had built a parallel life, one where I didn't exist. And she had the audacity to archive it. I sat there for hours, going through each image again and again, cataloging the betrayal in high resolution. The cruelest part? She looked happy. Not guilty. Not guarded. Just free. And the man? I didn't recognize him. Older, maybe mid-30s. Stylish. A little artsy. Beard? Dark hair. Always half-cropped or reflected. Never tagged. He was her secret, but not a stranger. Not to her. I looked for clues, hotel names, signs, anything to give context. There wasn't much. They were careful. No geotags, no captions, just faces and touch and light and closeness. All the things I hadn't felt from her in months. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just shut the laptop slowly, like I was closing the lid on something sacred and toxic all at once. That night, I sat on the deck outside the bookstore, wrapped in a borrowed blanket, and watched the fog roll in across the lake. Crept in slow, like a secret, swallowing everything in its path. I thought about the Chicago conference, the one she'd been too tired to talk during. How she had come home with a souvenir mug from O'Hare. How she told me the hotel food was terrible. She had even complained about the seminar topics. She had built the lie so completely that I didn't question a single word. Because I trusted her. I trusted her so much I ignored my instincts. I blamed myself. Told myself I was paranoid, insecure, too sensitive. But the truth was right there. In every photo, every timestamp, every filtered smile. I had been played. And worse than that, I had loved someone who was capable of this. Of deception so deep, so layered, it took me moving across the country to finally see it. In that moment, everything snapped into place. The gym, the balcony calls, the sudden weekends at her sister's. None of it was accidental. She wasn't drifting. She was detaching. With intention. With strategy. And I was the placeholder. The stand-in husband. The man who held space for her while she explored a version of herself that didn't include me. The next morning, I sent a message to my attorney back home. Short. Direct. I'm ready. Let's begin. It's weird how people talk about truth like it's this untouchable thing. Something fixed, immovable, absolute. But that's a lie. Truth bends. It warps. Especially when only one side's telling the story. When I left, I didn't make a scene. I didn't post cryptic quotes. I didn't send angry texts or call her out. I just vanished. She came home to an empty house, a quiet closet, and a Wi-Fi network that no longer recognized her devices. The silence was my version of closure. But she didn't like silence. Silence didn't fit the narrative. So she rewrote it. It started with texts. First casual. Ellie, hey, where are you? Ellie, are you okay? Ellie, can we talk? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Then the tone shifted. Ellie, this is immature. Ellie, I deserve at least a conversation. Ellie, you're acting like a child. I still said nothing. That silence? It drove her crazy. Because Ellie thrived on control. On dialogue. On being the one who set the terms. When I gave her nothing, she started constructing her own version of events. First, I didn't know. Then, her sister texted me out of the blue. Hey, I heard what Ellie's saying. Just wanted to check in and make sure you're doing okay. I know things must feel overwhelming right now. Overwhelming? That was the word she used. I replied cautiously. What did she tell you? The response was almost immediate. She said you've been struggling with depression. That you left to get space. She's telling people you're not answering calls because you're working through some things and she's trying to respect that. I stared at the screen for a long time. It wasn't just a lie. It was a strategy. She wasn't telling people I left because she cheated. She wasn't even saying we were having problems. She was painting herself as the devoted partner, patiently standing by her troubled husband while he found himself. In her version, I was the one unraveling. Not her. Not the one in Paris. Not the one sneaking around in boutique hotel rooms. No, she was the supportive wife. The victim. The martyr. I didn't know whether to laugh or scream. And it didn't stop there. A few days later, I checked her Instagram. I hadn't unfollowed her yet. Mostly because I hadn't decided if I wanted to burn bridges or just let them quietly collapse. Her feed had changed. Gone were the selfies, the couple sh*ts, the dinner dates. In their place were quote graphics, each one vague enough to be innocent but cutting enough to feel like they were aimed at me. Sometimes people leave not because they're broken, but because they're afraid to heal. You can't pour from an empty cup. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means choosing yourself. Under each post, the comments rolled in. Stay strong. Babe flexed biceps. Proud of you. You deserve peace. And my favorite, if he couldn't love all of you, that's on him. All of them bought it. Hook, line, and curated caption. She was repackaging her betrayal as a personal breakthrough. A journey of self-care, healing, discovery. It wasn't just disorienting. It was erasure. She was slowly deleting me from the narrative. The photos of us? Gone. The anniversary posts? Archived. The trip to Colorado? Cropped and recaptioned to make it sound like she'd gone alone. Our dog, Finn, who she once called our little family, was now just my reason to keep going. I felt like I was watching someone rewrite history in real time. And it worked. Mutual friends reached out, gently, like I was a fragile vase on the edge of a shelf. Heard you're going through some stuff. We're here if you want to talk, man. Take all the time you need. No pressure. I didn't correct them. Not yet. I didn't want to sound bitter. I didn't want to be that guy, the one who airdropped screensh *ts to prove a point. Felt gross. Like I'd have to expose myself just to justify walking away. But privately, I started saving everything. Every story. Every post. Every text. Because the version she was selling wasn't just a lie, it was a future liability. And I knew sooner or later someone was going to ask what really happened. I wasn't going to post it. I wasn't going to smear her. But I was going to be ready. What I didn't expect, though, was how deeply she leaned into the persona. She started doing live check-ins, short videos where she'd talk about emotional boundaries and growth. She even launched a second Instagram account at Rooted Ellie, where she posted book quotes and journal prompts. Her bio read, "Healing out loud, finding strength in softness. Wife, sister, storyteller. Wife, still calling herself that." Even as she edited me out of every corner of her online life. Even as she told her followers that she wasn't ready to talk about what happened, but it was a season of necessary endings. I watched her gain followers, watched people thank her for her vulnerability, watched her post a photo of a sunrise with the caption, "Sometimes losing everything is the first step toward finding yourself." And I wondered if she ever looked at those photos from Paris and felt even a flicker of shame. Because while she was crafting her soft-lit reinvention, I was rebuilding myself with the splinters she left behind. I didn't post about my pain. I didn't tweet through it or blog about it or film myself crying in my car. I moved in silence. I found a therapist. I started running again. I stopped sleeping with my phone beside the bed. I got my own place, small and a little drafty, but mine. And I documented everything privately. Not for revenge. For reality. The lingerie receipts. The travel dates. The photos. The cloud folder. The texts to her trainer that read more like poetry than coaching. The timeline. Clean. Organized. Dated. The truth. Not loud. Not embellished. Not we *p*nized. Just preserved. Because one day when the image cracked and the audience stopped clapping, and she looked around to find the version of herself she created no longer felt real, I wanted her to know someone did remember how it actually happened. That while she curated vulnerability, I endured the fallout. That while she told the world I left because I was healing, the truth was simpler. I left because I was done living in a story she kept rewriting without me. It had been about a month since I left. In that time, I had gone from angry to numb, and now something closer to distant clarity. The kind that feels cold but useful, like rinsing a wound in icy water. You don't enjoy it, but you know it's the only thing keeping infection from setting in. I was walking through the village one afternoon, coffee in hand, when I got a message from an unknown number. No name, just a simple, "Hey, I think we need to talk." About Ellie. I stopped walking. There was no punctuation, just enough intent to make my skin crawl. I stared at the message for a while before typing back. "Who is this?" The reply came quickly. "I think you already know." He didn't say his name. He didn't have to. It was him. The man in the Paris photos. The man behind the reflection. The man whose face I had only seen in fragments. Forearms, jawlines, silhouettes. Now a voice. I didn't respond. I didn't want a conversation. But curiosity has a way of tugging at you, even when you know better. The next message came a few minutes later, longer this time. I just found out. Everything. I didn't know she was married. She told me you were divorced. That you left a while ago. She said you were emotionally closed off. That she had tried to make it work, but you pushed her away. I'm sorry. I had no idea. I sat on a bench outside a small bookstore. The one where the owner always left little paper signs recommending books like they were secrets. I reread the message. Once, twice, and then again. The words didn't feel defensive. They felt sincere, tired, like they came from someone just now waking up in a room he didn't realize he was locked in. He followed up with one more message. I didn't come here to defend myself. I'm not asking for anything. I just thought you should know I'm not part of it anymore. I ended it the second I found out. For a long time I didn't reply. I didn't know him anything. He was still a character in the collapse of my marriage. Still the face in those photos. But something about the way he said, I ended it the second I found out, stuck with me. I had spent weeks spiraling over a version of her I didn't recognize, wondering who she really was behind closed doors. And now, the man she chose over me was saying even he didn't recognize her. Eventually, I typed, "How did you find out?" The reply took longer this time. A few minutes, maybe, long enough to suggest he was weighing the truth. I asked to meet her parents. She said it was too soon. I asked about you. She said you were out of the picture. But something didn't add up. Her stories changed. I Googled her full name. Found an old engagement announcement. Then your Facebook. Then your wedding photos. She never deleted them. Just hid them. I confronted her. She said it was complicated. Said you were technically still married but emotionally distant. That she didn't want to hurt you. That it was ending anyway. That's when I walked. I sat with that for a while. There was no satisfaction in it. No closure. Just confirmation. She had lied to both of us. To him, she wore the mask of the abandoned wife, doing her best to move on. To me, she was the loyal partner, overwhelmed with work and distant because of stress. We were both placeholders in different versions of her life. I asked him one last thing. Why are you telling me this now? His response was immediate. Because I think you deserve to know that it wasn't about you. You weren't crazy. You weren't unlovable. She's just really good at rewriting stories. I believed mine too for a while. Then he added, I'm sorry, man. Truly. I hope you find peace from this. I didn't answer after that. Not because I was angry, but because I didn't know what else there was to say. The conversation was strange, surreal, but oddly grounding. It felt like talking to someone who had been inside the same fire but escaped through a different door. We hadn't been allies. We hadn't even been enemies. We were just two people who collided at the intersection of her deception. I stared at the screen for a long time after the conversation ended. And then, almost without thinking, I clicked back to Instagram. There was a new post from her healing account. A photo of a journal open beside a latte, with the caption, Trust is fragile. If it's broken, don't blame yourself. Just let go. The comments were what you'd expect. Exactly this. Needed this today. So proud of you. Proud. They were proud of her. For what exactly? For managing the optics of betrayal so beautifully? For ghostwriting her own redemption arc while stepping over the truth? She wasn't just rewriting the story anymore. She was monetizing it. I did something then I hadn't done in weeks. I logged out, deleted the app, closed the browser. I shut the laptop and pushed it away like it was covered in something toxic. I didn't need more truth. I had all I could carry. Later that evening, I went for a long walk around the lake. The sun was beginning to sink, bleeding orange into the still water. The trees whispered above me, tall and indifferent, the kind of quiet that forces you to listen, even to the stuff you don't want to hear. I sat on a bench and pulled out my phone, not to check messages, but to scroll through the camera roll. Not Ellie's photos, mine, old ones, us at a county fair, her laughing with powdered sugar on her nose, a blurry *T of her dancing in the kitchen at 2 a.m., wearing one of my hoodies, singing off-key. I hadn't looked at these in a while. I didn't cry. I didn't smile either. I just looked. And then I did something I didn't expect. I started deleting them, one by one. Not out of anger, not out of spite, but because holding on to a memory once it's been hollowed out feels a little like keeping a dead plant on your windowsill. At some point, you have to admit it's not going to bloom again. And no amount of sunlight will change